So the Bitcoin whales have just been accumulating Bitcoin at their fastest rate in over a decade, which is absolutely astonishing when you look at the comparison between today and 2024. Now, we're going to be doing that. We are going to be looking at the comparison of looking at how much Bitcoin these Bitcoin whales are accumulating today in 2024. Today, we're also going to be looking at the comparison for why 2024 is very similar to 2020. Because what we're seeing today in 2024 is exactly what we saw in the springtime of 2020, just before Bitcoin rallied by 500% in a matter of only 150 days or so. So we're going to be talking about all of that and more, but let's start off by explaining just how rapidly these whales are buying Bitcoin. We can see in July alone, the whales have bought 84,000 Bitcoin, the highest amount of Bitcoin that they have bought in over a decade. Now think about this and why this is so important. Because a decade ago, it was a lot easier for somebody to be a Bitcoin whale. It was far easier for somebody to accumulate 1,000 Bitcoin, because over a decade ago in 2014, Bitcoin was what? It was $500 a coin, $300 a coin. It was very cheap, much easier to accumulate. Today, it's not so cheap. Today, it is muy exposo. I think that's how you say expensive in Spanish. Bitcoin is at $60,000, despite it, maybe it's at $58,000. It's having a little bit of a correction today. But I think we're going to have a look at why this is so interesting. The Bitcoin whales have bought 84,000 Bitcoin in July alone. Now, that is massive. That is absolutely huge. And we can see here that the exchanges are seeing a little bit of an outflow, okay? One of these whales withdrew 46,000 Bitcoin from Bitfinex recently. This huge withdrawal further supports the fact that institutional investors are gearing up for the next bull run by stacking a lot of Bitcoin, okay? So let's continue having a look at this article. There's a few more interesting stats I want to show you guys. We can see here that the whales are continuing to buy Bitcoin despite Bitcoin being under $60,000 right now. Some people believe this is because maybe the whales know that Bitcoin is headed for a new all-time high in the not too distant future. Now, why do I say in the not too distant future? Okay, we're going to look at the charts, and I want to draw your attention towards some really interesting similarities that we're seeing today in 2024 with 2020. So I've done my best to make this chart as big as possible, but what you can see is Bitcoin actually went sideways for 154 days over here in 2020 before it saw this really explosive 500% rally. Bitcoin rallied from, under $10,000 to $65,000 in a matter of mere months, okay? This rally occurred between October 2020 and March 2021. That is less than 6 months. Under 180 days, Bitcoin rallied by 500%. But before this explosive rally, have a look at what the price of Bitcoin was doing. It was doing absolutely nothing. It went sideways for 154 days between April 2020 and October 2020. Now, again, why are those dates so interesting? They are historically the worst months for Bitcoin prices, okay? Typically, if you look at Bitcoin on a seasonally adjusted basis, we will be able to see that Bitcoin's best months are in Q4, okay? This is the end of the year, okay? And typically when Americans' summer is kicked in, so this is between like May, June, July, August, a lot of the traders kind of go on holiday, so to say. They're not in front of their desks, okay? So this is why the price is so boring, and this is why people have the saying, sell in May and go away. That's because price in not only the stock market, but also the Bitcoin market historically has been very boring throughout that American summertime, May, June, July, and August. Now, this chart here really highlights our point, okay? If you have a look at this chart for a long amount of time, you will notice, you'll see the most amount of green months in October, November, December, and February for Bitcoin. Those are Bitcoin's 4 best months of the year. Okay. And right now we are in September, which historically hasn't been a brilliant month for the price of Bitcoin, averaging a minus 4.78% return over the past 10 years. This chart is looking at 2013 to 2023. Now, if you compare that to the next, October, November, December, historically, Bitcoin returns 23% positive returns in October, 46% positive returns in November, and 5.4% returns in December, and a 15% return in Feb, and a 12% return in March. Okay, so Bitcoin really likes Q4s and Q1s, the end of the year and the beginning of the year. And this is typically when Bitcoin sees these big blow off tops. Okay, so let's go back to our chart. Again, that was the seasonal data for why Bitcoin on average has performed better during Q4 and Q1. But we can see, I think there's a lot of similarities here. Bitcoin rallied explosively in 2020 from $3,800 back up to $10,000 really rapidly. We really zoom in on that period of time to show you guys just exactly what was going on. Bitcoin absolutely pumped off its bottoms. Okay, it went up by 150%. That's more than doubled, and it did that in a matter of not a lot of time. Let's say 2 to 3 months. And then after that explosive rally, it went sideways for these 154 days. Now, I think we are seeing something similar because Bitcoin rallied explosively off its bottom in 2023, much quicker than most people will, expected. Bitcoin rallied from $15,000 all the way up to $73,000 in around a year. So this is a longer rally, but it was a bigger rally. Bitcoin's up by 400%. Okay. And this, like 2020, I believe, actually caught a lot of traders offside. And typically when you have these really explosive moves, it's very normal for price to chop sideways and do a whole lot of nothing for, as we can see here, 6 months time. Okay, between both 2024 and 2020, Bitcoin largely chopped sideways for 6 months. Okay, this tweet here from Bitteroo sums it up nicely. Okay, again, we had 154 days of sideways chop in 2020 before we exploded higher. And what was happening during that time? As you can see on the left-hand side of this chart in 2020, the whales were aggressively buying Bitcoin. Aggressively, okay? And we can see in 2024, Bitcoin has now been chopping sideways for 168 days. And again, have a look at that chart. Look at how parabolic that chart is, highlighting we're seeing a lot of new Bitcoin whales come into the space. And I want to draw your attention to this chart. And I want you to have a look at the 2024 side of this chart. So again, this massive parabolic rise that we saw in 2020 on the left-hand side of the chart, look at how small it has been made in comparison over here on this 2024 chart, okay? The whales getting in today are dwarfing the size of the whales who were buying Bitcoin in 2020, okay? So again, the whales are paying very close attention to what Bitcoin is doing. And you know what we say about the whales? They typically have a pretty good history of predicting what is going to come next with the price of Bitcoin. Naturally, they should be better at predicting where the price is going because they have a lot more money. Wealthy people don't become wealthy by accident, okay? Poor people are poor for a reason. I know that sounds horrible, but that's just the truth of the matter, okay? If you don't want to be poor, buy Bitcoin. We always encourage you guys, if you are looking for somewhere new to buy your Bitcoin, we always encourage you guys to check out everything that Rhino Bitcoin is doing. As you can see, Rhino Bitcoin has a super slick user interface. You can do all sorts of things that you want to do on Rhino. You can buy Bitcoin on Rhino. You can sell Bitcoin on Rhino. You can even do more advanced things on Rhino, like set up a multi-signature setup and connect that to Casa for support. You can also do some really cool things like buying Visa cards on Rhino. As we can scroll down here on the website, you can actually see that they are a banking solution from the future, okay? Rhino was created by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. They have really nice security. They call it bulletproof security by design, and you can do all sorts of really cool things on Rhino. You can trade on Rhino. You can even in the future potentially even borrow money on Rhino. And this is what's got me really excited. You have the Rhino debit card. Okay, if you're traveling, you know how difficult it can be to spend your Bitcoin in certain countries. But I think having a debit card obviously solves that issue. So again, I always recommend you guys check out what Rhino is doing. If you want to be like the Bitcoin whales, aggressively buying Bitcoin today, see whether you can download Rhino in your location today and get started buying Bitcoin. Okay, so again, all of that's going to be linked down below, rhinobitcoin.com. That should be in the description by the looks of it. It's in the live chat as well for those guys who are in the live chat. But again, these whales, do they know something that we don't? Why are they aggressively buying Bitcoin at such an enormous rate? And what's different in 2024 compared to 2020? Okay, so obviously I think some data that could be skewing this chart just a little bit, or maybe skewing is the wrong word because the data is the data. The data is not lying, okay? But maybe something that's been a contributing factor for why this data is so parabolic is because we've had the Bitcoin ETFs come online, okay? The Bitcoin ETFs came online in January, and you can see this chart really began to go parabolic in January, but you can see even leading into January, we can see very, very clearly that, we were increasing in the amount of whales buying Bitcoin. You can see something similar in 2020. It was slowly increasing between 2018 and 2019 in that bear market low when Bitcoin was cheap. The smart money consistently accumulates. And just before the price of Bitcoin goes parabolic, the number of whales also was going absolutely parabolic in 2020. Maybe something similar is happening today in 2024. Okay, CS in the comments makes a great point here. Leverage retail will always get wrecked. They're trying to play against the house using the house's rules. The house knows exactly what bets are open and where all the liquidations are. It's a great comment by CS, and this is why we always encourage you guys, do not play with leverage. Do not trade your Bitcoin on leverage. There's lots of what look like very reputable YouTube channels here on, YouTube that tell you they know exactly where the price of Bitcoin is going. They draw all of these fancy lines on charts. They bring out all of their indicators. Boy, they have a lot of indicators, the people who convince you to trade. But again, we always remind you, nobody knows where the price of Bitcoin is going in the short term or the medium term. I think over the long term, most people would be right if they said Bitcoin's going to continue trending upwards in a volatile fashion. But again, do not trade Bitcoin. To CS's point, just simply copy what the whales are doing. Buy Bitcoin now while everybody's bored of Bitcoin. Everybody's over Bitcoin. Everybody's trading AI stocks or trading NVIDIA. Nobody cares about Bitcoin. Okay, Sasha on Twitter. Hello to Sasha from Twitter. I wonder how many of the 1,517 of you guys are on Twitter as compared to YouTube. Sasha says, we don't know now that we don't. Okay. I'm not seeing any comments from Rumble. I'm seeing one comment from our handle on Rumble. But again, I'd love to know how many of you guys are on Rumble. Again, after seeing what happened to Simply Bitcoin recently, we are going to be taking Rumble a lot more seriously. We're streaming to Rumble today. We had some issues earlier in the week connecting that live stream to Rumble. Or maybe I should reword that. We were streaming on Rumble and it disconnected halfway through. But we're back. So if you guys are on Rumble, uncensorable social media platforms, come say g'day. So you can follow, you can find our Rumble linked in the live chat today. Let's have a look at these comments you guys have. McLovin says, I suppose we should be whale watching. Some people in the space don't love whale watching. And again, I'm not encouraging you to trade based upon what the whales are doing. I just think the whales have a pretty good history. I mean, this is not my opinion. Just have a look at the chart. The whales were aggressively accumulating Bitcoin in 2020 when it was under $10,000, when it was at $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. The whales historically have been relatively correct, okay? Again, certainly not recommending you guys to go whale watching 24/7. Yes, sometimes you're going to get some skewed data. Yes, sometimes some of the inflows and outflows in and out of exchanges can be unreliable. You don't know what is happening. But I think on the medium term, having a look at this stuff is a little bit interesting. Elaine's heading over to Rumble. Thank you so much, Elaine. We would appreciate that. YouTube buffers whenever she watches a Bitcoin video. I'd be interested. Do other people have the same experience? Is Rumble better for watching live streams? I honestly don't know. I actually don't have the answer to that question. I haven't watched a ton of videos on Rumble, and I haven't noticed a difference between Rumble and YouTube. Digital Bobby says, you got to fight for your right to cut your own hair. I think it's pretty clear, judging upon my dodgy haircut, that I've been cutting my hair for a very long time. All right, guys. There's 1,688 of you guys watching this live stream today. I hope this chart puts some things into perspective for you. And I think drawing the comparison from 2020 to 2024 is something we need to do more often, because I think a lot of people right now are really bearish on Bitcoin. I don't think they're stacking as aggressively as they could be because they're just bored of the price. I understand how it can be. It can be a little bit boring with the price of Bitcoin. If you are a little bit bored and if you want to entertain yourself with some interesting rabbit holes, recently had the pleasure of releasing an interview on the channel that another co-founder of Bitcoin News, Rob, conducted in America, Nashville. In Nashville with a privacy expert called, whose name is Seth for Privacy, okay? If you're interested in learning about some reasons for why Bitcoin privacy could be broken, as you can see by the thumbnail on this screen right now, you can head on over and check out that interview. And while you're there, and if you're enjoying the interviews we did in Nashville, we also recently did another one with Dennis Porter, which you can also see on screen right there. And with all that said, thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to SPAT for the kind comments. You can check out that Seth for Privacy interview linked in the live chat. And the final note to end today's video on is McLovin says, my stack grows whenever I break out my hair clippers. All I can tell you guys is I have stacked a considerable amount of Bitcoin over the past 10 or 11 years that I've been cutting my own mop of a haircut. Okay, and that's $50 a pop for a haircut in Australia is a price that I could not justify. So with all that said, guys, check out those two interviews that we've released in the past week or so. Both of them are linked in the live